Got your red and blue. And red and blue is everywhere. Your red and blue makes your purple, and your purple is your royalty. And that's what our country is really owned by. The crown. We're not a country, we're a corporation owned by the crown.
It is my desire, if not my duty, to try to talk to you journeymen with some candor about what is happening to radio and television. And if what I say is responsible, I alone am responsible for the saying of it. Our history will be what we make of it. And if there are any historians about 50 or 100 years from now, and there should be preserved the kinescopes of 1 week of all 3 networks, they will there find, recorded in black and white and in color, evidence of decadence, escapism, and insulation from the realities of the world in which we live. We are currently wealthy, fat, comfortable, and complacent. We have a built-in allergy to unpleasant or disturbing information. Our mass media reflect this. But unless we get up off our fat surpluses and recognize that television in the main is being used to distract, delude, amuse, and insulate us, then television and those who finance it, those who look at it, and those who work at it may see a totally different picture too late. This instrument can teach, it can illuminate, and yes, it can even inspire. But it can do so only to the extent that humans are determined to use it towards those ends. Otherwise, it is merely wires and lights in a box. Good night. And good luck.
What is astounding is the picture of the Queen with her arm round Michelle Obama, and Michelle Obama's hand around the Queen too, but the Queen made the first move. This is the most astounding thing, because the Queen is not known for being touchy-feely.
Bat lets out the dark. One day, Bat was asked to deliver a mysterious basket to Moon. The journey was long, and Bat became tired and hungry before she arrived. She laid the basket down and fluttered off to find food. While she was gone, Mouse, Deer, and Manya saw the basket, thinking it might be filled with food. They opened it. It was dark inside, but the moment they opened the basket, the darkness flew out and escaped. When Bat returned and found the basket open and empty, she was very upset. Every night she flaps her wings and tries to gather the darkness back up. And then Earth I don't even know that if we even live on Earth. This could just be a place that they've constructed and built for their farming system. You know, we're a breed of human that they created in their image. Right? Like it's written. They tell us what they're doing to us while they do it. So they created a breed in their image. It's the best way to hide amongst us is they look like us, you know.
The bumblebee, when he starts to beat his wings, when he starts to flap his wings, there's a little cavity, a hollow cavity next to the larynx inside his system that's hollow. And when he beats his wings, he starts to resonate this energy, and it goes back and forth, just similar to a guitar strumming on one side of the room and hitting the same chord on the other side of the room, or somebody hitting a high C and breaking a crystal. It's the same thing, it's resonance. And he said what they do, they resonate. And when they resonate, they eventually reach the resonance of the field around them. And he says once this bumblebee hits that resonant frequency of its surroundings, it becomes a free agent. It creates a magnetic bubble around itself, and it can go anywhere it wants. And I said, well, that's not in any of the science books. He said, I know. You probably never see it there either, but that's what happens. They'll discover it someday and bring it out, but it's just we have a conventional way of doing things, and then we have a natural way of doing things, and they're totally different. They're diametrically opposed in many, many cases.
This is the really clever bit. In spite of 30-mile-an-hour crosswinds, whether out or back, they all fly in dead straight lines. They all fly in dead straight lines.
It's a man named Grebennikov from Russia, entomology. He found a certain bug that didn't fly, it levitated. The bug wings themselves were creating an anti-gravity phenomena under certain conditions. And of course what we have here, if you analyze, I think I found the bug. It's actually a beetle. And if you analyze this bug structure, you see a hexagonal pyramid structure array throughout the entire bottom wing of this bug. Turns out that beetles have two wings. The top wing is called a wing cover, and what the beetle does is it lifts this wing cover up, and then it flips out its lower wings, or inner wings. Now the bug cover protects the inner wings, but when it gets excited or something, it flips these other wings out, and it flaps these other wings, and the inner wings flap a little, and this beetle goes gyrating around. They can't fly very good, but they sure levitate great, I guess.
Salutes as the big Royal Canadian Air Force plane from Montreal lands at Washington Airport.
She wasn't even a queen when she met her first president, Princess Elizabeth, arriving in Washington in 1951. This, her first ever trip to the United States. President Harry Truman was there to meet her.
It's a very great pleasure for me, as the President of the United States, to welcome you to the capital of our country.
So here we're seeing the vampire bat displaying really how it laps blood out of the animal that it's feeding on. You can see some key features like how the tongue really has these cool grooves that allow the blood to flow back. The tongue also excretes an anticoagulant, which really keeps the blood flowing. So the way that the vampire bat feeds is not by sucking blood through its big canine teeth, but rather making a small divot into the flesh of the animal and then lapping it up with its tongue. And
distinguished guests, and men and women of the finest military in the world. And most of all, Admiral Mullen, Deborah, Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
It is my desire, if not my duty, to try to talk to you journeymen with some candor about what is happening to radio and television. And if what I say is responsible, I alone am responsible for the saying of it. Our history will be what we make of it. And if there are any historians about 50 or 100 years from now, and there should be preserved the kinescopes of 1 week of all 3 networks, they will there find, recorded in black and white and in color, evidence of decadence, escapism, and insulation from the realities of the world in which we live. We are currently wealthy, fat, comfortable, and complacent. We have a built-in allergy to unpleasant or disturbing information. Our mass media reflect this. But unless we get up off our fat surpluses and recognize that television, in the main, is being used to distract, delude, amuse, and insulate us, then television and those who finance it, those who look at it, and those who work at it may see a totally different picture too late. This instrument can teach, it can illuminate, and yes, it can even inspire. But it can do so only to the extent that humans are determined to use it towards those ends. Otherwise, it is merely wires and lights in a box. Good night, and good luck.
Distinguished guests, and men and women of the finest military in the world. Most of all, Admiral Mullen, Deborah. Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today. Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
Well, because I don't show.
And do you think that the country will see the United States will see the first gay president or the first woman president?
We already have it with Obama, so let's just calm down.
Got it.
No, Michelle is a
I'm sorry, she's a what?
A transgender. We all...
Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today. Michael and I also want to acknowledge your son Jack, who's deployed today.
In 1776, the American colonies declare their independence. Then, George Washington, that dashing general destined to adorn the $1 bill, stuns the world by defeating the mighty British Army. He mothballs his uniform and throws his hat in the political ring. And before you can say, I cannot tell a lie, Washington is elected the first president of the United States. I mean, everyone knows that, right? The problem with that version is that it skips over more than a decade of American history.
We have this myth that in 1776 we declare independence, and then very quickly we create a government, the government that we've had ever since. But if you think about it for more than 2 minutes, you realize the Declaration is 1776 and the Constitution is written in 1787. That's 11 years. So what happens in those 11 years?
Good question. In those lost years, the forgotten fact is that America is ruled by governments that come before our cherished Constitution. And it's those governments that our other first presidents lead. Our first president is John Hancock, the same Boston patriot warned by Paul Revere on his midnight ride. In 1776, he's president of the Continental Congress, the American colony's fledgling national government. And when he and the other delegates put their John Hancocks on the Declaration of Independence, he's instantly promoted to the president of the newly declared United States, making him the first president.
This Hancock will probably comes closest to working out originally what the model of the presidency would be, not because he had any special ambition of his own, but because the burdens of the office were increasing as the war escalated.
Our second first president is Samuel Huntington, but almost nobody remembers him because he makes the list only on a technicality. He happens to be president of the Continental Congress in 1781. When the Articles of Confederation are ratified, laying out a new form of government for the new nation. The first president elected under the Articles of Confederation and to serve his full term in office is John Hanson of Maryland. And many historians believe that fact makes Hanson America's first president. Period. And you don't have to listen to the experts. Ask the father of our country.
It's a matter of record that Washington himself spoke of John Hanson as the nation's first president.
So yeah, I have a $2 bill. And when you zoom in here, sorry it's a little shaky, but that's John Hanson right there. And clearly his face is shaded in, so that's a darker man.
It is my desire, if not my duty, to try to talk to you journeymen with some candor about what is happening to radio and television. And if what I say is responsible, I alone am responsible for the saying of it.
Guess what? Guess what is a big secret? Air traffic control towers are harvesting free energy. Just like the towers that were used and squashed, but they weren't. They're being used today. Energy is free. Energy is being harvested out of the atmosphere. Airports are designed just like motherboards.
They're designed to harvest free energy. Creating the frequency needed for their turbines to work. Runways are set up. In very specific directions to harvest that frequency needed. They need this intake, they need this compression, they need this resonation, but they do not need fuel. They do not fly with liquid fuel. That's one of the big secrets. They tell us they fill all these airplane wings, jet wings, with all that fuel. And right here they show you it's air. Air. These chokers. And why would they be fueling a wing up into it from the bottom? That makes no sense. Liquid falls. You know, what? He has sunglasses on here. No eye protection, no arm protection. All this fuel being pumped into this wing, supposedly. Not protecting himself at all. Meanwhile, right back here, they're telling you it's air. It's air that is flying these planes. Compression. You know, the cabin compresses so the plane can levitate. That's the real zero gravity. So, if they've hoaxed us about 9/11 and hoaxed us about jet fuel, all this fuel being in the wings, if that's not possible, if jets fly on free energy, it proves that 9/11 was staged. If that's not jet fuel burning, because jets don't use fuel, "9/11's busted." Free energy is the big secret.
Permanent magnet motor technology, PM for short, has been introduced in several ranges of Rolls-Royce marine equipment. The PM motor consists of two main parts: a stator that carries a number of electrical coil windings, and a rotor fitted with a number of very strong permanent magnets. A rotating magnetic field is created by the stator, which interacts with the fields of the permanent magnets on the rotor. This generates a force which drags the rotor round, providing mechanical power. PM opens the way for innovation in marine propulsion. The PM motor can form a thin ring around the propeller. The stator is the stationary part, and the rotor carries the propeller blades. A reduction in noise and vibration is the result. PM tunnel thrusters were the first Rolls-Royce products to be introduced to the market and are now joined by azimuth thrusters, AZ-PM. Other types will follow. The permanent magnet azimuth thruster has been through a comprehensive and successful program of testing for function, reliability and durability using a fully instrumented test rig. The result is an environmentally friendly, fuel-efficient thruster with reduced noise and vibration levels and hardly no cavitation. The space demand is significantly reduced and no inboard cooling system, hydraulic pumps or power packs are needed.
The bumblebee, when he starts to beat his wings, when he starts to flap his wings, there's a little cavity, a hollow cavity next to the larynx inside his system that's hollow. And when he beats his wings, he starts to resonate this energy, and it goes back and forth, just similar to a guitar strumming on one side of the room and hitting the same chord on the other side of the room, or somebody hitting a high C and breaking a crystal. It's the same thing, it's resonance. And he said what they do, they resonate. And when they resonate, they eventually reach the resonance of the field around them. And he says once this bumblebee hits that resonant frequency of its surroundings, it becomes a free agent. It creates a magnetic bubble around itself, and it can go anywhere it wants. And I said, well, that's not in any of the science books. He said, I know. You probably never see it there either, but that's what happens. They'll discover it someday and bring it out, but it's just we have a conventional way of doing things, and then we have a natural way of doing things, and they're totally different. They're diametrically opposed in many, many cases.
Hear that, boys?
What is it?
Just another narrow-body aircraft.
Hey, my atoms are shaking. Strange. It sounds far, but I bet my last proton that beast is much closer than you think. Hold on, people. It's a LEAP-powered aircraft. A leap into the unknown.
What on earth is a leap?
Something you sure haven't seen before. Everybody get ready. We're going in.
Can someone please tell me what just happened?
Sure. The engine makes a plane move forward. Thrust is produced by air being pulled in by the fan blades. Then this air is ejected at greater speed through the exhaust, creating the required pushing force. This is a principle of Newton's law. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. So how is this possible?
Gentle souls, come with me to the bypass.
Extreme sport freaks, with me, we'll hit the compressors, combustor, and turbines.
The LEAP is a high bypass ratio engine, which means that a large amount of air bypasses the core of the engine to be ejected directly into the exhaust stream. The fan acts like a propeller. Its curved rotating blades accelerate the airflow into the engine. Lighter composite materials provide better efficiency and resistance.
Here come the compressors. Get ready. Things are gonna heat up. Feel that? It's the low-pressure compressors squeezing us. Now, the high-pressure compressors. You're gonna feel the difference.
Ultra-efficient compressors deliver optimum air pressure and temperature conditions for combustion.
It's rising up now. Let's get toasted!
Okay, Adam, we just flew to Peebles, Ohio. But how often do you think about the jet engines on a plane when you fly?
I think about them all the time. Almost every time I fly, but I have never seen one up close.
Okay, well, you're about to.
And we'll even get to see them test one. Awesome! Have you?
Let's see.
Dude.
Oh, man.
Oh, man.
Oh, hey, what's going on, guys? Glad you can make it. I'm Chachi. Nice to meet you.
Allie, nice to meet you.
Welcome to Peebles Test Operation. This is actually the final assembly and test facility for our engines. Our whole campus is 7,000 acres. And we use about enough jet fuel here to be able to fly to Mars and back 6 times.
No.
Yeah. Right now, you guys are actually standing inside our large engine production building, and I got a lot of cool stuff to show you guys today. So if you're down, let's kick off this tour. Let's start. All right.
Let's explore. Can we touch things?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
All right.
All right, just to give you guys a little sneak peek of the size of the engines that we work on here.
From a distance, I thought this was a piece of an engine, but this is actually separate pieces of an engine.
These are actually just the fan blades. They haven't even been put on the engine.
Can I?
Go ahead.
This is like
Don't drop it.
Okay, I promise I won't drop it.
Is it light?
It weighs about 40 pounds.
Let me see. Ooh!
Yeah, it's heavy.
Yeah, that's really light.
So all of those go into here?
Yep, they have to go in a specific spot to make sure the engine balances.
What happens if the engine doesn't balance?
There's too much vibration in the engine, that's a lot of energy loss on it. And
it's energy spent on something other than thrust.
Other than flying your airplane. It never gets boring working in here.
No?
This stuff's awesome. Got another piece to show you guys that goes on the front of our engine. It's a pretty iconic piece. These are the spinner cones that go on the front of the engines. You guys can actually pick it up and look at it.
Really?
Can we?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, look at that! There's a swirl. Why is the swirl even here? I mean, other than looking adorable.
The swirl is actually there so that the ground crew at the airports know when the engines are on.
Oh, serious?
Yeah. And you guys want to see one up close that's completely assembled?
Yes.
Let's go. So here we got a fully assembled engine.
Oh.
This whole back part, that's the main propulsor. That's where the air gets compressed, fuel gets injected, and pushes this thing forward. This is the engine with the blades and the spinner cone, everything assembled on it.
So beautiful.
Give it a big spin.
That's cool. Wow. I'm mesmerized by the shape of the blades.
Actually, the shape of the blade is so distinctive that one of the blades is in the Museum of Modern Art for making art here. That's really awesome.
Totally, I'm in. I buy it.